All right, man, peace. So now this is going to be part two in the Is Michael Bennett the Tupac of the NFL series? We've already touched on in part one some of the similarities that Michael Bennett's character, the cult of personality that he's trying to cultivate, has with Mr. Tupac Shakur, or at least had, including the fact that both of them are agents of chaos who try to act quizzical in regards to the sandstorm, the tornado of confusion that tends to whip around them due to their conduct, and the fact that oftentimes they like to cultivate a lot of these troublesome atmospheres around themselves so that they can call attention to their so-called causes. With Tupac, it was the so-called thug ideology that he was trying to promote amongst the young black males. With Michael Bennett, he's an agent for the so-called Black Lives Matter, really the Black Lesbians Matter movement. Anyway, it's now been revealed by one of the police chiefs in Texas, the person who's presiding over the press conference to announce Michael Bennett being indicted, that there is no video footage, strangely enough. One would expect that they would have had no problem finding video footage of this incident in the direct aftermath of the Super Bowl, where you have thousands of people with video cameras and with camera phones filming exactly what's going on the field. Even Michael Bennett's sister had footage of them storming the field in the immediate aftermath of the game, when Michael Bennett's brother Martellus was victorious, along with his team, the New England Patriots, over the Atlanta Falcons. Just seems very strange. Anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Sports Center right now. I'm Antonietta Collins. Eagles defensive end Michael Bennett is expected to turn himself into police today after being indicted by a Texas grand jury Friday on a felony charge of injury to the elderly. Bennett, who has been out of the country, allegedly injured a 66-year-old paraplegic security guard at the 2017 Super Bowl. Even though the incident happened more than a year ago, Houston police say the case wasn't investigated until this past September because the department had to prioritize more serious cases.
Or they had to formulate exactly how they were going to present this narrative to the public. I will be eager to see if both the quote-unquote 66-year-old paraplegic as well as the other young female who claimed that Michael Bennett assaulted them in the aftermath of the game, if they are commanded to take the witness stand and give a testimony in regards to what exactly occurred. I'm still incredulous to the notion that there's no footage of this. There are literally cameras everywhere, and no one has footage of Michael Bennett storming the field. But we'll see, because supposedly no one had footage of the events that occurred in Las Vegas when Michael Bennett claimed that he was the victim of racial profiling. And of course, they came up with the camera footage and showed that Michael Bennett was a liar. And yes, to you internet revolutionaries and you woke Negroes who come on my channel, yes, he was proven to be a liar. Get over it.
For more on this, here's First Take.
Okay, so Michael Bennett will turn himself into police today, according to USA Today. Stephen A., how do you feel about how Bennett's being portrayed here?
Before Stephen A. Smith answers, let me say this. It's very obvious to me that Michael Bennett has created an energy around himself very similar to the energy that was created by Mr. Tupac Shakur. And he's going to have to be prepared for the backlash. Many of these police departments are going to consider him a quote-unquote person of interest in any way that they can. Now, I don't know if Michael Bennett has a lot of the same connections that Tupac Shakur seemed to have, but you never know. I'm already on record as saying that I believe that Michael Bennett is a monarch athlete, as is his brother Martellus. Just my view. From the moment that Michael Bennett has been allowed to rise in prominence in the so-called woke movement, the so-called Black Lives Matter movement, I've noted that to me, just looking at his face, at his countenance, he's a dude that's not all there. Extremely emotionally and mentally unstable, as was Tupac Shakur. So we'll see what happens with this. But he is certainly considered persona non grata amongst the various police departments, and they're going to do what they can to make him look bad.
I don't like it one bit. Let me preface my comments by saying that if he is guilty of such a thing, he deserves to be dealt with. He deserves to be fined. He deserves to be jailed. Anybody who would do what he has been accused of deserves to pay the price for it.
I doubt if this is going to make it to court. if he indeed is guilty of what they allege he did, I'm pretty sure that he's going to pay off both of the accusers. But it will be very interesting to me to see how they present this case, seeing as they claim that there's no video footage, which I find almost impossible to believe.
I'm not trying to absolve anybody from that. But before I go on with what I have to say, I would like to play the tape of, what is his name? Art Acevedo, the police chief, who had his little press conference a couple of days ago. Can we show the public that press conference, please? Some snippets from that, please.
There is no video at that location. No video captured that incident.
This is why I state that there's something rotten in Denmark with this story. For him to say there is no video of what occurred. One would think that if they were truly pursuing some type of verification of the allegations, that they would say, well, at this time, we have not been able to acquire video footage to substantiate the allegations, because there has to be a fan out there somewhere that was filming the field. There are literally 50,000 plus fans with camera phones out or video cameras out. There's no way that you're going to tell me that in the immediate aftermath of the Super Bowl, that no one was able to film Michael Bennett and his sister bum rushing the field. There's no way. So for him to say very matter-of-factly that there's no video footage tells me that either they're just trying to run Michael Bennett through the ringer, or this is a fake story to just keep Michael Bennett's name out there as a persecuted figure, a la Tupac Shakur.
But we had a police officer, Officer Morgan, who witnessed it. He gets his day in court like everybody else. But I'm very confident that based on the totality of the evidence in this case and the individuals, the victims, the witnesses, including the police officer, that when a jury sees this, they're not going to be too happy.
Well, if a police officer witnessed what occurred, how come he did not arrest Michael Bennett immediately?
That is irresponsible to me. This man is the police chief. I understand that position. You just basically convicted this man in the court of public opinion on national television.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, to be quite frank with you, sir, that's what you do every day. You try to convict people in the court of public opinion every day. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
While admitting there's no video, you don't know. You have an officer who told you what happened.
Well, of course, he's going to side with his officer. He's not a judge. He's not in the judicial system. And this is another thing. People oftentimes have these truly unrealistic expectations for police officers. Once again, all a police officer is a garbage man for humans. His job is to pick up the trash. Most police officers don't have the foggiest idea of what the laws actually are. Really, all they're taught is how to detain suspects and what they can and cannot do in the process of detaining suspects. They're not lawyers. They're not judges. They're not administrators. They really don't know what the hell's going on most of the time. And of course, he's going to side with one of his fellow officers. And let me say this. It is very common for police officers to moonlight as security staff at stadiums. So, of course, they're going to look at any allegation that a member of the security staff at a stadium is making as something that a brother or a sister in arms is making. They're going to side with them immediately. And if they hold a press conference, they are going to make it look as if the focus of the allegations is guilty.
Now, listen, this is the same Michael Bennett that was a nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. This is the same Michael Bennett who, along with his brother, was honored at the BET Awards for their philanthropy.
Yes, they've been honored for being woke. We get it.
And their sensitivity to what ails our community.
Well, that's part of the problem. There's too many people who are sensitive to, quote unquote, what ails the black community, but there's no one who really has any solutions. Most of the most prominent people who are involved in being, quote unquote, sensitive to what ails the black community are not solution-oriented creatures. They're emotional-oriented creatures, which means that they really are not viable candidates to lead in any way, shape, or form. Michael Bennett just seems to me to be someone who's going through an identity crisis. He wants to be someone that he's not. And of course, he's being pulled this way and that way by his sponsors, by his controllers, that being the so-called Black Lives Matter movement.
This is the same Michael Bennett. I want to sit up there, put this camera on me, please, because this is very important that I say this. He is 6'4", 274 pounds. That That's what he's listed as. A defensive lineman in the National Football League. And do we have a depiction of him getting into a fight with somebody like that? No. You're trying to tell me this man sat up there and just shoved aside and put his hands on and disregarded a 66-year-old paraplegic?
Well, that's what the allegations are, Stephen A. Smith. Once again, he'll have his day in court or he'll pay off the accusers. That's how that goes. Yes, Michael Bennett and his brother have been feted by the liberal media. They've been the recipients of awards by BET, etc. I don't really know what that has to do with the situation at hand. I could come back and say that Michael Bennett has also been involved with diving at the knees of offensive linemen in games where it was obvious that the final score was already without a doubt. But he's still diving at people's knees. We can call that dirty. Is that something that we want to enter into the official record of trying to judge his character? We don't know what occurred after that game. We know that, according to multiple accusers, he was involved in some form of an assault. How true that is or not, who really knows?
Now tell me, what possible chance does he have to look good or to come across as innocent in all of this? You got video, that's an entirely different ball game. But you're trying to tell me with no video whatsoever, you're just going to paint a picture as this humongous black man on a football field for the Super Bowl 14 months ago. 14 months. And you're going to bring into the equation a 66-year-old paraplegic.
Well, that's the point, Stephen A. Smith. That's why they keep mentioning her age, as well as the fact that she's paraplegic, as well as the fact that she's so-called black. To let you know, this is not racially motivated. And I don't believe that it is racially motivated. I believe that it's motivated by the fact that either this is some type of false narrative to once again enhance the image of Michael Bennett as a persecuted figure, or more likely, this is just some get back by a police force who feels like they have an opportunity to roast this guy because of his false allegations against the Las Vegas Police Department. That's very clear. And yes, it is very common for police chiefs or police executives to stage press conferences in which they feel as if one of their members or one of their brothers or sisters of the Shield, per se, have been assaulted. And yes, they're going to project the story and the information in an emotional way. It would have been different if Michael Bennett was accused of assaulting a civilian, but he's been accused of assaulting two members of the security staff at NRG Stadium, and that's why I've stated many cops moonlight as security staff at these stadiums, and therefore they view other members of the security staff as brothers or sisters in arms. So it is going to be something that they take very personally.
And what you want us to do by bringing that up, what are we supposed to believe about this man? It sounds despicable. It sounds disgusting.
It really doesn't matter what you or I believe. All that matters is what transpires in court. That's what we're told over and over and over again, is to trust the judiciary system.
Do you know what somebody that would do that to a paraplegic deserves?
Well, we'll find out in court when he gets his verdict.
So
that's if he doesn't pay them off.
So automatically, in a court of public opinion, that police chief just convicted this man. Because even, Max, if we find out the case gets settled, it gets thrown out of court, or we don't have any evidence, you know when you Google this man, you sat up there and you injured a 66-year-old woman who was a paraplegic.
Well, one of many naysayers or doubters could say, well, Michael Bennett should have thought of that before he falsely accused the Las Vegas police force. How did that make the LVPD look when he made those accusations and he was laying on the ground talking about, my kids, I just want to see my kids. Claiming that they had a gun to his head and all that bullshit. When he was running out of that club or that lounge or wherever that was in a zigzag pattern like a damn rabbit, claiming that he was being racially profiled when everybody else in the establishment was also black. How the hell could you be the victim of racial profiling when everybody else there is a so-called black person? Sometimes people try too hard.
And I see nothing. You better have some facts. If you're the police chief, it better not be hearsay, because let me tell you something. If anything about this is wrong, What has been done to Michael Bennett is beyond cruel. It's beyond cruel.
I don't know how cruel it is, Stephen A. Smith. I think that sometimes people make their beds and they have to lie in them. When you're Michael Bennett and you love attention, when you're Tupac and you love attention, you're going to court a lot of energy back at you. Whatever energy you emit is the type of energy that you court to yourself. So you have to be very cognizant of the type of image, the type of energy that you're putting out. When you decide that you want to speak on so-called racial issues, then you have to make sure that you're on the up and up, that you don't have any ulterior motives or agendas. And then when you decide that you're going to lie on the authorities, whether you like the cops or not, they are going to get you back. I did a video, one of these court show videos that I did where I believe it was the Hell Have No Fear Like a Woman Scorn video, part 1, where Judge Mathis was chastising the plaintiff, who was a so-called black man who claimed that he had been the victim of racial profiling. And Judge Mathis was going through the history of St. Louis and the police, or the history of certain portions of Missouri and the problems they've had with the police. And he even looked in the camera and said, don't try to get me, because I have police that have my back. I have security to have my back as well. So even Judge Mathis, a judge in America, understands that when you speak ill of the police, they are going to get you back to a degree. So you have to be built for that.
Stephen
They
A.,
better be right.
let's just take what you just said, well articulated, by the way. I think you hit on exactly the right points. Let's take what you said, and then I want to make my point.
Sure.
You say, like, he's prejudiced the jury. Well, first of all, just hearing the facts. I don't know any of the people involved.
Right.
Michael Bennett we know of course, this woman we don't know. Okay. What does it sound like to you? Oftentimes, if an athlete actually gets to court over something like this, do you think someone approached him first to settle? Normally, that's the way it works.
That's possible, unless the motive is not for money. Maybe the motive is for publicity for Michael Bennett. Is that necessarily what I believe the primary motive may be? Not necessarily, but I am broaching that topic because I understand what a person like Michael Bennett is used for, and I understand the methodology and the philosophy behind how they promote many of these characters. The philosophy is that all promotion is good promotion. There's no such thing as negative promotion. As long as they keep their names in the news, and if they can create this element around him as being a persecuted figure, as someone who the cops just have it out for, they can create a cult of personality around him. Remember, Kaepernick is no longer in the NFL. So by any means necessary, in however a Machiavellian way they will try to utilize whatever tactics they can to promote Michael Bennett's name. But if you were to ask me honestly what I think that the cops are just trying to get some get back at him or on him. But we'll see, because somebody has some footage somewhere of this man storming the field. There's no way that you're going to tell me that no footage exists. That's not possible. Not in this day and age. Absolutely not.
He wouldn't settle. If that means they are going to court, if I were his defense attorney, I would think, damn, a 66-year-old paraplegic woman is injured when thrown to the side by my client. Oh wait, the police chief said what? The chief of police already said what? He prejudiced the jury? I mean, Stephen A., he just prejudiced the jury, it seems to me. I think you hit the nail on the head if it.
Right, but are you concerned about finding out exactly what occurred, or are you concerned about how to figure out how to get Michael Bennett off? Because it's not your job to act as amateur attorneys on television. If the case is going to go to court, then that means that there must be some evidence that they can substantiate. There's something there just for it to be able to possibly go to trial.
And if anything, if I were his defense attorney, assuming this is actually going to a trial because there was some attempt made to settle which didn't happen, then as his defense attorney, I'd be happy about what you just said. Now, I want to quickly say, I don't like the way Bennett's being depicted in the press either. Especially, and partly, you don't even have to have a target on someone for this to happen. Everything's clickbait nowadays, right? So
yeah.
the more sensational the headline, and oftentimes all people see is the headline because they don't actually click or don't read much if they do. But I'll say this, that doesn't absolve Michael Bennett from the unintended consequences of his behavior. In
That's
other
fair.
words, even if he's just an athlete who understandably feels entitled to go out on the field and celebrate his brother's Super Bowl victory, because this happened the Super Bowl before last, even if that's the way he feels, if there's security there, you can't just push your way past. And if
Absolutely. And if that's what he did, he will have to pay in some way, shape, or form, either with money or with jail time. As I've told you, brothers, already, all prison is a way for you to work off your debt. All transactions are viewed as being commercial transactions. They don't really send you to jail because of what you did. They send you to jail because you can't pay off the penalty for your crime.
And if there's an unintended consequence from that behavior, there will be some kind of consequence to you legally, and I think that's perfectly okay, in spite of the fact that I don't like the way he's being depicted.
It's Super Bowl 51, wherever it was, NRG Stadium in Houston. Your brother was a tight end for the Super Bowl champions, who, by the way, came back from a 28-3 deficit and won the Super Bowl. If they sat up there and said, people were rushing onto the field, trying to get on there, and he knocked over somebody, that's entirely different. What they painted this picture as, if you listen to that chief of police, what they painted the picture as is, you just sat up there and you saw a 66-year-old paraplegic and you just violated them.
No, that's not what he stated. He's going by what the accusers have stated, Stephen A. Smith. And especially in this day and age where we live in the don't shame the accuser, you better be very careful of what you're saying. Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman are the types who will come back tomorrow if there is some type of social media movement started over this issue, and they'll say, I apologize to the paraplegic. I never meant to shame you in some way, because everybody reacts to these social media movements. At the end of the day, all the police chief is doing is bringing forth many of the accusations that have been sent over to him from the accuser. That is his job. The reason why he's taking it so personally is because both of those women are associated with the police force through the fact that they work for security. That's all it's really about.
You just shoved them aside. Yeah, that's the way they painted this. Now, accidents could happen, or you could have been irresponsible in your enthusiasm to go and celebrate with your brother. You didn't mean to do something. If you say something like that, I got nothing to say. Yeah. No.
Well, how do you know that he didn't mean to hurt her? According to the accusation, he turned around and he said, don't you know who I am? I could buy the whole stadium, or some nonsense like that, according to the accusation. Now, how real that is, or if it's just some barbecue sauce that they're pouring on that chicken wing, who knows? But let's not separate what the accusations are as opposed to what Stephen A. Smith is trying to imply from the police chief.
No, they're acting, they're talking like this man targeted this paraplegic who's a female at 66 years of age.
It doesn't matter whether or not he targeted her or whether it was premeditated. If he ran on the field and they tried to stop him from storming the field and he pushed them purposefully, as they both claim, or as the accusations seem to imply, of course it's going to be deemed as a crime, especially if the recipients of the assault, quote unquote, suffered any form of serious bodily harm.
Is there anything about this man's history? Michael Bennett is not perfect, but is there anything about that man's history?
He spends his time and money helping in the community, helping people who need help.
Is there anything about him that says to you that he would do something like that?
Both you guys need to act as character witnesses if this issue is brought to trial. That has nothing to do with the accusation at hand. Nothing. You could be one of the biggest philanthropists in the world, and behind closed doors, you could be a child molester, serial killer, serial rapist.
Yeah. And then if we sit up here as black men and take this there, if we sit up here as...
Oh, boy, now all of a sudden he wants to be pro-black. Stephen A. Smith is so funny. He's so damn funny. He reminds me of the liberal black female who decides in what situation they want to pull the racialist card. Give me a break.
As black men and talk about the willingness to depict us in that kind of fashion, then we go on racial. But that cannot happen. Now, I hope listen, if he's guilty of any of this, pay the price.
Of course, but I get why you're irate.
Come on. 66, 6'4", 275 pounds, and you gonna shut, come on.
No, I'm with it.
Well, supposedly, the 66-year-old paraplegic woman is a so-called black woman, Stephen A. Smith. Stop concentrating on what the police chief said. Concentrate on her accusations. Because if it does go to trial, she will take the witness stand, presumably. And she'll be forced to corroborate or substantiate her claims.
Okay. All right, more First Take after the break.
But anyway, that's pretty much it on that. We'll see what happens with Mr. Michael Bennett. And as usual, time will reveal all things. Peace.